Hey everyone, Gaijin Goombah here, and I know, I promise next time I'm gonna go right back into video games, just like my channel's supposed to, but I had to do this one last video on Kubo and the Two Strings. Now, last time I left you fine, ladies and gentlemen, I had given you a couple of articles talking about the problematic issue of Hollywood whitewashing and Kubo and the Two Strings. The apparent issue on people's minds was basically, in a movie set in pre-industrial revolutionary Japan, why were so many voice actors white? I mean, apparently this movie just has barely any Asian, let alone Japanese voice actors. You know, like Kari Hiroyuki Takewa, George Takei, Alpha Takahashi, Laura Mio, Ken Takemoto, Miyane Noji, Aaron Aoki. Oh wait! But the level of cultural detail extends far and beyond a simple issue of voice acting. Kubo and the Two Strings has actually provided its audience with some of the most detailed peeks into Japanese culture without ever throwing in your face that so far I have yet to see anyone bother to mention. So it looks like I'm going to, and I'm down with that. So let's start with the setting. Not too far into this movie, we see that the village that Kubo performs in is gearing up for a festival to celebrate the return of the spirits of their ancestors, which actually becomes the climax theme of the movie. Highlights of the festival include the use of lanterns, dance performances, and the mass visiting of family graves. Now, while the average moviegoer may think it's something wholly unique to this movie's world, you would be mistaken. Without ever dropping a name, this movie's festival is without a doubt the Japanese holiday of Obon. A Buddhist holiday taking place on the week of August 15th. Oh, what a coincidence, that's exactly when this movie was released. Japanese families will travel to their hometowns and pretty much spend the entire week getting ready for the return of their family ancestors. While back in the old days straight up fires were used, nowadays people prefer lanterns called mukaebi or greeting fire placed at the homes of the returning spirits to help them find their way. Families would also place a special assortment of food and drink upon their family's altar called ozen, consisting of things like fruit, sweet confections, and green tea. Families would also pay a visit to the graves of their past members to not only pray, but to give their graves a good spick and span cleaning. Finally, just like in Kubo, families would place lit lanterns called okuribi or send-off fire in a nearby stream and let the waters carry them back to the afterlife, in a ritual called toro nagashi, or lantern flow. But just like in the movie, this holiday isn't all just somber and gloom, there's dancing! Not that kind of dancing! Bon odori to be specific. What started out as prayer symbolism for lost soldiers during the Genpei War has become one of the most beloved summer activities in Japan. I just wish it wasn't in August, and if you know Japan, you'll understand why. In fact, in Kubo and the Two Strings, if you listen closely enough, you will actually hear Tanko Bushi, or if you don't understand Moonspeak, the coal miner song, which is what you're hearing right now, and really, this is as stereotypically Obon as you can get. But you wanna know something even crazier? Because of how close this movie is to its Japanese roots, I can actually determine the exact location in Japan where this movie takes place. See, the Obon dancers we briefly see in Kubo wear colorful yukata and unique hats called amigasa, which are wholly unique to a specific Obon celebration dance called awa odori. What was once a Kamakura period harvest dance has turned into one of the biggest odori celebrations in all of Japan, pulling in 1.3 million spectators a year. And guess where this takes place? Tokushima, Japan. But is it really Tokushima, or am I just making things up for convenience? Well, let's take a look at this picture that's a pulled back view of Kubo's village, and this picture of the Tokushima landscape. While both are mountainous like 90% of Japan, the mountains in both of these images are pretty stumpy compared to other mountainous regions. We also discover that Kubo's village borders on the forest of some of the thickest trees I've ever seen. Ichiu village in Tokushima Prefecture in parallel is known as the Land of Giant Trees, home to trees as old as 800 years and nearly 9 meters in circumference. But hey, if holidays and geographical locations aren't enough to sway you, let's talk monsters. Specifically, one of the most memorable monsters in Kubo and the Two Strings, I guess we never did learn its name. Giant sword-head skeleton? Regardless, this monster is a direct reference to the Japanese yokai known as Gasha Dokuro, or the Starving Skull. Made from the bones of those who died of starvation, the 75-foot-tall Gasha Dokuro attacks travelers by picking them up, biting off their heads, and drinking their blood. Gross. Though they are easily avoided as the monster is nocturnal and gives a tell by producing a high-frequency sound, Gasha Dokuro are indestructible. Nocturnal, indestructible, grabby instead of punchy kicky? That is exactly what our skeleton in Kubo was all about. Beetle's arrows and various sword strikes did nothing to damage it. The monster also only appeared in a deep, dark cave. And lastly, it didn't take shots at our heroes, but instead picked them up and brought it to its face. It could have honestly just squashed them all like bugs, pun intended, but instead it opted to presumably chomp down on them, just like the actual Gashadokuro does. Do you see where I'm getting at here? I've only covered like half the movie, but there are so many compounded Japanese cultural references that I really can't call this movie a whitewash. Are the main actors voiced by Asians? No, but I think this movie does more than enough to give respect to the culture and folklore that it's representing. You know another criticism I heard about this movie? I've actually heard people say that Kubo looked too anime. I know, right? This and this, not the same by any stretch. But I will say that if you like anime, you would love Kubo, just like I think you'd love lewd anime. Aside from being a massive supporter of my content, which allows me to keep making videos the way I want to, Loot Anime's monthly subscription gives you unique anime gear worth $60 to your front door for less than half the price. My Loot Anime box theme of Back to School came with an exclusive Assassination Classroom whiteboard, tentacles not included, an adorable Fruits Basket keychain, Digimon Adventure Tri-Print set, Danganronpa Tai, Persona 3 Manga Volume 1, and my favorite item, a Revolutionary Girl Utena bento box. And this month's theme of Demi-Human brings unique gear from One Punch Man, Bleach, Tokyo Ghoul, and Twin Stars Exorcists. So if you want to snag yourself some unique swag, head on over to lootcrate.com/Goombah3 and use the code Goombah3 at checkout to get 10% off your purchase. But don't delay because this deal ends on September 19th at 9 p.m. Pacific. And hey, if you don't believe what I said about Kubo and the Two Strings, go check out my buddy Hutch's video on the topic. Being Japanese himself and from Tokushima, he'll tell you the exact same thing, if not much, much more. Or if you missed my first video talking about Kubo and the Two Strings, click here to see how this movie could easily be a spiritual sequel to the Japanese folklore classic, The Tale of Princess Kaguya. And be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of my newest cultural theory videos. But until then everyone, this is Gaijin Goombah, signing out.